All right, welcome to Habs Unfiltered. Finally, our preview, preseason, off-season, and big show all in one because we didn't really have much to do. Being all three in the military, had busy lives. I sailed up north. Blaine's gone around the world. Is now stuck in Panama, and Air Force guy over here did his Air Force thing and worked all these weird hours that us Navy guys don't understand. So, how you been, Matt?
I've been good. It's good be back behind the mic and looking forward to having Blaine back on here if he ever gets home. And with shoddy Navy equipment, you never know how long it's going to take. We might have to fly down and pick you guys up.
Well, let's just say they have a date set for them to leave Panama.
Okay.
So hopefully he'll be here. It sounds like he'll be here around the same time he was supposed to be here in the first place, but
Okay.
he just won't have as many nice ports on the east coast of North America. That's all.
That's too bad. But you know what? I'm sure his kids are looking forward to seeing him. His wife's looking forward
Yes,
to seeing him and
definitely.
everything. So,
It's been a
and
long
of
six
course,
months.
we're looking forward to having him back on here and then doing this on a little bit more of a regular basis with the season starting.
Correct, because he's the technical guy. We just show up with our pretty faces and talk, and he
That's
does
right,
all the
and
work behind the scenes.
that's not much. We can we can only work with it so much.
All right, so we'll get right into it. The Canadiens have their final roster set for the season. They're getting ready to play as we speak the Toronto Maple Leafs tomorrow night. There's some surprises on the team, some people who deservingly should be on the team. And other than that, it looks like all systems go. And let's talk about that. So, what to you is a surprise coming onto the team, making the team, or not making the team in your eyes?
I was a little bit surprised with Joshua Roy because I thought a lot of us were thinking that guy's going to be a lock to make the top nine, and some people had him even in on the top six when Patrick Laine went down with his injury, and thankfully his injury is not as of right now. Um, doesn't require surgery. He's going to be out 2 to 3 months, but when I look at Joshua Watt, well, he was one of the first guys I thought that was going to go into that position. Um, but you look at his camp, other guys were better around him. Guys like Barre Boulet, guys like Heineman, guys like Kapanen. These are all guys that ended up making the roster. And you see a guy like Joshua Watt sent down to Laval, but um, they would have lost the other guys on waivers more than likely, other than Kapanen, of course, who he would have went back to Europe. Um, I think this is a wake up call more than anything for Joshua Waugh. He's a still very good player. This is not the end of Joshua Waugh in Montreal. It's just him going down to Laval isn't. Again, it's more of a wake up call. It's a kick in the ass. It's something that um, you can't take an NHL roster spot for granted. We saw what happened with Ual Armia last season, a veteran player, many games in the NHL, and all of a sudden he found himself on waivers. Sent down the Laval, kind of found his game a little bit more, and then had a burst when he came back and looked much better. Much better, much more prepared in this off season. So that would be my one. That was a little bit of a surprise, but again, I think it's going to be in a positive in the end, and he's going to be a first call up if anything happens.
Well, yeah, I thought he had a very pedestrian. I'm gonna actually mirror Eric Engel's words from the Sick podcast. I thought he had a very. I don't think it was terrible. I just don't think
He didn't stand out.
correct. He didn't stand out. He was the guy who basically had the spot to lose, and he lost it. And you're absolutely right. It's because Pierre Boulet, although I do believe he could have probably would have went through waivers and ended up in Laval. I don't think anyone, judging by some of the names that I saw on the waiver wires, I don't think he would have been someone they picked up. But Heineman probably would have been gone through waivers. Someone probably would have grabbed him and Kapanen again. I don't think they wanted to lose him to Europe. I think the only way he wasn't staying is if he
Right.
had a bad camp. Um, but for me, I was one of those guys that had Waugh penciled into line A spot on the top six. I believe right now it's Armia, I think, from the last
It
practice
is,
that I
yes.
saw. Um,
And
So
we'll get into the lines
yeah,
here in a
yeah.
second.
But
But
I think another surprise I had was the play of Justin Barron. I thought he had a very strong, excellent camp, which he normally doesn't have. He normally kind of struggles through the preseason and stuff like that. And he's one of those, should we keep him? Should we send him down guys? But yet another guy who would have went on waivers. Not sure if anyone really would have picked him up, but I thought Logan Mailloux had a shot to make the team this year after he, I want to say, dominated the AHL as a defenseman, a rookie defenseman.
right.
I think he was second in points. He was one of the top defensemen in the league offensively, made the All-Star team. You know, so, but again, Mayu,
He's another one of those first call up guys.
correct. And Mayu didn't really outplay Barron. He didn't play terrible. He wasn't bad, but he didn't you could tell Barron had the NHL experience where Mayu did not. Um but I'm one of those guys too. I hate preseason because half the games are playing against the AHL players anyway, and it's hard to
Right.
judge. Like I look at Waz numbers when he was in the NHL and they were quite good. His underlying numbers. And
Yes.
however, it's like you said, he just didn't outplay the others. And I think it's a message. It's saying, hey, you're going to have to work your ass off to be on this team. And if you're not going to do it, then we're going to pick someone
Absolutely.
who is. And I don't think Wall was lazy. He's coming off an injury. I just think he just wasn't prepared enough for the preseason and where others were. So I have to
Right.
totally agree with you.
Again, some people are freaking out and they're saying this is the end of him. He's going down. He's gonna get buried. You're not gonna say like we're gonna see him. Like we're gonna see him back. This is a wake up call. But more than
Yeah,
anything, if they can send him down and get him top line minutes playing, whether he's playing with Gignac, whether he's playing with Sean Farrell, etc. They have an opportunity to go down there and put up some points. He can be a leader on that team, somebody that has a little bit of experience at the NHL level. And we've seen him rise to the occasion before. Like he's played at the World Juniors, played alongside Connor Bedard, and he made Connor Bedard that much better. Open space for him, and Connor Bedard did the rest.
yeah.
Um, he'll be okay. Like just give him some time, and we'll see him back. And it's
Well,
Montreal. It's Montreal. It's inevitable. Someone's going to get injured.
well, we already have our big injuries with
Exactly.
Reinbacher and Line. But I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. Now I'm on Puckpedia now. Heineman's actually waiver exempt, so he can actually go down to the minors without waivers. But so there's another thing you got to look at. It might Heineman outplay Joshua Waugh to
Right.
make the
And he
roster.
did.
So
And I find like you look at him the last year, they started the camp. And yes, I know it's camp, but they're still tinkering with lines and everything. But the start of camp last year, Heineman started on a line with Suzuki and Caulfield.
yes, yeah,
They wanted to see what they
yeah,
had in this guy. And the injury happened and then he came back and we didn't see him at the NHL. Yeah, we saw him. He was more of an
yeah.
AHL player, but he's a guy. He's got a very good shot. He is physical when needed, and I think he brings a presence to the line. He's not going to be a guy that's going to be dropping the gloves every game, anything like that. But he's going to forecheck. He's going to finish. He's going to do the hard work. He's going to go to the hard areas, and he's a guy that they can maybe rely on as a penalty killer and some secondary scoring.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Also,
if
he's
they,
gonna.
but
Oh, go ahead.
But at the same time, if he's a guy that starts and he fumbles this opportunity, Joshua Wall's gonna be waiting.
Yeah. And Heineman's going to be a guy I think that you're going to use. Probably going to be a bottom six guy in his career, a third, fourth liner. And right now, Joshua, I don't think they're looking at as third, fourth liner. So it makes more sense to keep the guy that's going to play in the minutes that you want him to play when he hits the NHL, as opposed to the guy, that you actually want him to play, at least top nine,
You're right.
and right now Waugh wouldn't fit in. Well, we all thought he would, but the way he was playing, he wouldn't have fit into that top nine. Whereas
Yeah.
Heineman's a guy you can sit there and say, you know what, he's a penalty killer, he's a grinder, he's a good guy, he's a good third line guy, which is what he's going to play on if the lines stay the same against the Leafs. Let's
Right.
just keep it at that. And I have no issue with that. I have no issue with you know, Waugh going down to the minors. And I have no issue with you know, anything they've done. I don't even have an issue with Armia playing on the second line, which I know we're going to get into the lines coming up. And a lot of people have said,
We
hey,
can do that. We can do that right now.
that right now segue into it. So as of right now, the top line, I'll just go through the lines. As is the practices of yesterday, the top line was, of course, was Caulfield, Suzuki, and Slavkovsky. The second line,
No surprise. No surprise.
New Hook, Doc, and Armia. So New Hook and Doc's not a surprise. Armia a little bit of a surprise, but if we'll talk later, and it's to me, it's not that much of a surprise. Third line, you have Heineman, Dvorak, and Anderson with Evans, um, Evans, Gallagher, and am I
No,
missing
those are
something?
those are swapped. So it'd be
Those are swapped. Yeah, Dvorak,
Dvorak, Anderson, Barry Boulay,
Barry
and then
Boulet, and then
yeah, and
Heineman, Evans,
Evans,
and
Gallagher,
Gallagher.
and
Right, right.
Heineman. Yeah, yeah,
With your defensive pairings of Mayu, or Matheson, Gooley, Hutson, Savard, and Xhekaj. Well, it was Struble, but it looks like it's going to be Bear now because Struble has an
yeah.
upper body injury.
Right.
As of right now, I believe Xhekaj was sent down on a paper transaction. Um, I'm
Yes, I
not
believe
sure.
he was.
I'm on
I believe he
Puckpedia.
was.
Yeah, I'm on Puckpedia. They have him down as a non-roster defense, but I think it's just a paper transaction until the
Yes.
LTIR hits in at the first till Harvey Pinard's LTIR hits in, and then they can bring him back up.
Right.
Um, so no surprise with a line. I guess the surprise is the right wing on the second line. Line A was the guy until he got
He
hurt.
was. He was.
Um,
And I'll even ask you a question on this. Are you less optimistic about the Canadians offensively than you were before the injury? Because like for me, bringing in Patrick Line, I was quite surprised when it happened. I was in North Carolina at the time on an exercise. I found that out, and I was just like, "This is fucking awesome! This is great!" And I was so excited about it. And then a week or so or a couple weeks ago when the injury happens, I'm in Toronto at the I was at the Tom Segura concert or at the Tom Segura show, and we couldn't have our phones on during the show, obviously. So at the end of the show, I open my phone and it's like Jack I got thrown out of the game and this happened and this guy fought and this guy got injured and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I go to Boston Pizza afterwards and I see on all the screens that it's you know, Lion A grabbing onto his knee and everything, and I'm just like, oh, here we go, like it's here we go again. It's the Montreal Canadiens injury riddled season all over again. So when I saw that, my just everything just sunk in me, and I just was like, here we go. Like we went out, we got this guy. He's went through so much, and this was his chance to have a fresh start. He was looking really good. The guys around him had nothing but positive things to say to about him. So did the coaching staff. He just seemed like he was in the right spot mentally, and now you have this. So, um, what do you think this does? Do you think this is a time for someone to step up, or is it more or less like you know, uh, you know, rinse and recycle or reuse or whatever you want to call it. And it's the next man up mentality.
I think it's time for someone to step up. Like I said earlier, I was hoping to be Waugh, but judging from his camp, I can see why it's not. I think it does hurt their offense, but I still think their offense is going to be better than it was last year. I think you get a full season, for hopefully a full season of Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky. I think those guys are going to be, they have the potential to be one of the top lines in the league. I think what this does is just basically make Montreal still a one line team, or
Yes.
one and a half lines, because we all still don't know what Doc can really bring to the table. We all know what he should be able to bring to the table, um, but we haven't yet to see him put it together for a season. So, um, I can see. I don't. The offense is still going to be better than last year, but not as good as I thought it would be when we had Liney. Now, when we had Liney, I'm thinking Montreal's going to pick in the bottom 15. Like they're going to pick 12th to 15th. They're going to come close to a playoff, but they're never really going to be there. Just like last year, like if anyone's watching that PR show that Montreal has on called Rebuild, that's not like CH 2024 CH like I thought it would be.
Right.
Um, they were close till Christmas. They were close to a playoff. They're within 5 points of a playoff spot right up till about Christmas, and then it all went to shit. Um, I think Montreal's going to be the same, only it's going to be almost the entire year. They're going to be 5 to 6 to maybe at the most 8 points away from a playoff, maybe as close as 3 points, but they're never going to really be in that spot. Uh, so I think with Line A, that's where they be. I think without Line A, yeah, now you're looking at maybe a bottom 10 pick. Like you're looking at around 8 to 12 instead of 12 to
Right.
15. Now it's only 2 months, 2 to 3 months. So Christmas time, he should be back. So that might depends on how well they play without him there. The only issue I have is, again, you shut down that top line and you're pretty much shutting down Montreal.
Yeah.
I guess the bonus we have now is we have two really good offensive defensemen on two different lines with Hutson and Matheson, and I don't think Hudson's going to have an issue in the NHL.
Okay.
I think he's
Let's
the real
well
deal.
let's get into that.
Yeah.
Because people are losing their shit on social media right now when the lines came out for potential power play units. The first one being Matheson, Suzuki, Slavkovsky, Caulfield, Duck. No, obviously no particular order. With number two being Hutson, Barry Boulet, Newhook, Armia, and Gallagher. So obviously a big drop down in skill from one to two. But the main caveat there being Hutson is on number two, not on number one, and people are losing their shit. So discuss.
Ah, I don't think this is a. I think this is a. Let's wait and see what he brings to the table. I mean, the Montreal's power play was 1 for like 24 the entire preseason.
They
So
didn't score. They didn't score. They
they
didn't even
scored.
score in the preseason.
I thought they scored in the last game against Ottawa.
Nope, they didn't score.
Okay, all right. Well, then zero. Then they were 0 for like 24. I thought
Right
they scored.
as Saint Louis said, like we didn't show them anything. It's like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, would I put Hudson on the top power? I would put Hudson and Matheson on the top power play and move one of
Right.
my forwards down to the second. That's
And
probably
and,
what I would
and
do.
that was one of my thoughts as well.
Yeah.
However, if I think of NHL rosters and NHL power plays, the only team that I can think of that had two defensemen on it on their top unit, off the top of my head, was Vancouver with Hronik and Quinn Hughes.
But
And like
there's a reason
right,
why Hronik and Quinn
exactly,
Hughes are good offensive defensemen.
and
So
there's other teams out there that have very good offensive defensemen, but they split them up. So I'm with you. He's going to succeed wherever he goes.
so let's put a positive spin on this. So say I know everyone's freaking out. Everyone's saying Hudson should be on the top line, Matheson on the second line. But this gives Hudson an opportunity to really show how good of a quarterback of a power play he is if he's on
Yeah,
the second line and it's his power and it's his power play to quarterback. And let's be
absolutely.
honest, they're not really throwing any heavyweights with him on that power play line.
That's right.
So this is the guy. If he could take that line and make it successful on his own, then he's just proven to everyone in the world that, listen, I'm the guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
look what I'm doing with this garbage. I mean, not to say, but I mean, when you have an AHL player, Gallagher, who is it? Brule,
So
Gallagher, Anderson.
Hudson, yeah. So Barry Boulet, Newhook, Armia, and Gallagher.
Yeah. So Anderson's not even on a power play. Well, Anderson's not a power play player either. He's more of
No,
a, he doesn't score from just standing around passing the puck around. Um, so really all you really have for offensive talent there is Newhook. If
right.
you think about it, like from what he did
He's
last year with
he's the
Montreal.
guy that stands out. He's the guy that
Right.
stands out.
Everyone else is just kind of, oh, Okay.
But you're right. If Lane Hutson can go in there and make that group of players more dynamic, then maybe we got something.
And they don't even have to score. They just have to have a productive power play that gets shots on
Right.
net. Right? Like,
Right.
and a lot of people look at that. They look at, oh, well, they didn't score. They didn't score. But yeah, they were 0 for 4, but they got like 13 shots in the power play and they kept the puck in the zone the entire time. They just couldn't beat the goalie or they couldn't beat the
Right.
the, the defense. A lot of people don't look at that, but that's the positive spin I'm going to put on it. Personally, myself, I would have Hutson and Matheson on the top power play and
Right.
move uh Doc or someone down to
Yeah.
the second
The
power
way I'm
play.
looking at it, it's first game of the year. It's a long season. It's a long season. We're talking first regular season game for Lane Hutson.
Well, Matt, this is how it's going to be all season. Like, let's Hudson is
It
going to
will.
be,
It
he
will.
might as well be in Laval because he's never going to get the minutes. They're always going to have Matheson in there. No, give the kid a break. He's played 2 NHL games total. Mind
Yeah.
you, he looked like he belonged in both those games against Detroit at the
Right.
end of the season.
Yeah.
But
So I guess I can't say it's his first NHL game, but you know what I mean. He
yeah,
played
yeah,
the 2 games and he did look good against a team that it is funny because people were like, "Oh, they're just playing Detroit," and Detroit was out of the playoffs. Well, Detroit was trying to make the playoffs,
yeah. They
right?
at that time they were. Yeah.
Yeah, Detroit was like had to win those games, and they found out they didn't make it like during the shootout or during the
Yeah.
overtime or whatever it was of that final game. So to say they were playing a team that was just checked out is completely false.
Not just that. I was going to say not just that, but yeah, that's exactly the way it is. I think people need to relax. Hudson's going to get his ice time. He's going to get his. Look at Slavkovsky last year. Look at the big controversy we had about him, whether he should be in Laval or not. No one's going to argue that Hudson should be in Montreal. So no one's arguing whether he should.
That's
The
right.
argument for Hudson is should he be top line minutes and should he be a top power play minutes or not.
Right.
I do believe if Hudson is the guy we think he is, you will see him start taking minutes away from Matheson and get put on, especially if that power play really starts to suck 10 games into the season. Like if we're like we were in the preseason, then something got to give, right?
Yeah, we
So
could even see it in game. We could even
yeah,
say, okay, first power play went out, Matheson went out to it. Okay. Second time it rolls around, starting the
put
offensive zone,
put Hudson
Hudson's
in.
out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. See what he's got.
Yeah. And like I said, we have all season. We have all
Right.
season to find this out. I am not expecting Montreal to make the playoffs.
No.
I know they
Neither am I.
talk about it.
Neither
I
am I.
know
I'd love
I
to
know
see
they
it.
talk about it. I know they say that's our goal. That's every team's goal. I know deep down inside, Kent Hughes and them are saying our goal is the playoffs, but actually our goal is to move the needle forward to get
Yes.
closer to being a playoff team and then seeing where we should be when we start, which is I think is next off season, when we start adding people to this roster to make that big
Right.
push forward. And I
Yeah.
think Line A was a hint at how they're going to
What's to
go
come.
forward, what's to come,
Yeah.
because they could have
Yeah.
easily not got Line A and said, okay, Wah, this is your chance, or whoever, this is your chance. We're just going to go with
Yeah.
the young
But they
guy.
saw an opportunity and they took it.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait to see how it pans out. Um, question though, what is your for the team to succeed this year? What is your X factor? Like what like in what aspect or what player or what needs to go right for this team to do just that and be a contender, not necessarily contender, a in the mix as they're calling it.
I think we need at least 2 lines that successfully produce on the ice. Um, I'd like to see Suzuki become that point per game player. Uh, I don't necessarily think we need 50 goal scorer, but we need a consistent goal scorer that's not Suzuki. So Cole Caulfield, I'd like to see him start consistently putting the puck in the net. Manji had the shoulder injury last year, and I mean, a lot of people are going to say these sound like excuses, but it's true. He had the shoulder injury, and it took him a bit to
He
come
did.
back. We all
He did.
saw how he was in the second half of the season. He started really showing what he had. Um, But I think we need that, and I think we need to keep the puck out of the net. Like I think our biggest issue last year, it was more our defense than our offense. It was more keeping the puck out of the net.
Right.
Um, for us to take a step forward, I like to see us get 85 to 90 points, and then you know go from there. But I would like to see that have at least two lines of successful production uh, instead of just one
Right.
line.
Right. So myself, it's goaltending.
Mm.
This is Sam Montembeau's show this year. This is the first year that it's 100% his show. Started last year with a 3 goalie system, and we all knew that wasn't going to work, and it didn't. Um, Jake Allen was sent off to the New Jersey Devils, and now it's Montembeau and Primo. There's no safety net. There is no nothing. Even though I think that Dobesh played quite well during the preseason.
I thought he might earn himself a job there almost, but we knew they were going to go with
With the
Preems.
contract situation
Yeah,
and everything, and they were so scared to lose Primo last year. Probably the same
yeah,
mentality this year,
yeah.
so they didn't do it. But he did look very good. He did look very solid. Um, but again, there was talks that they were in on Askarov, and the ask for that was there was different players that were in the mix. I've heard Owen Beck was part of it. I've heard that um, that Fowler was part of it, etc. Um, Ultimately, the deal did not work out, and now we're left with Montembeau and Primo. It's going to be very interesting because if I'm Sam Montembeau, I'm looking at the Four Nations tournament, and he has an opportunity if he plays well enough to be among those goaltenders at the Four Nations Cup, which could put him on the Olympic team moving forward.
Well, Canada's pretty weak in goaltending when it comes
They
to the
are.
world stage.
They are.
We have Jordan Bennington,
So like
Sam
when
Montingboat. Like you don't really have a lot of to choose
yeah,
from.
you got Aiden Hill,
Yeah, Jordan
right? Like
Bennington.
you have guys that have played in the moment, and you have guys that have won at the highest level, won the Stanley Cup. But gone are the days of Roberto Luongo and
Price,
Carey
Brodeur.
Price and
Yeah,
Brodeur and
yeah.
those kind of guys. Marc-Andre Fleury obviously is getting much older, etc. Gone are the days that it's like, holy shit, like who do we pick between this group of goaltenders? And how do we pick just one? And it's like it's easy, go with Carey Price. But we saw and we saw how well he played on the international stage. But for me, they've got to come out and they've got to play hard. And you look at their opening schedule, back to back Toronto, Boston, right off the bat
Not
with
just that, but
Saturday
they have a tough month. They
yeah
have
with the Saturday game being Ottawa.
yeah.
So you play 3 divisional games in a span of 4 days to start your year.
And they usually suck against Ottawa. They usually play well against Toronto, and
Right,
Boston's hit or miss. Boston's either going to be a good team or they're going to be a shitty team. No one really knows what
right.
they're going to be. But to go back to the goaltending thing, here's the issue I think Montreal has right now with goaltending. Montembeau has 2 years left on his contract. Wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm right on this. And Primo, this is Primo's RFA year. He's getting RFA at the end of the year. They're not the goalies of the future.
No, I wouldn't say they are.
Right. So, but you're absolutely right. Just because they're not the goalies of the future doesn't mean they shouldn't have something on their hands here or someone that can at least take them to where they need to go until the Jacob Fowlers and the Jobishes are ready to take over.
That's right.
I would dare say if anyone has to have a good season, it's Caden Primo because
He
we all
does.
saw what Dobish did in the preseason. We all saw
Yep.
what Dobish did in the second half of the season last year for Laval. He almost
Yep.
single-handedly put him into the playoffs.
Yeah. It
Um,
took him a while to get going, but once he did,
once he did, he didn't look back. And so now you got Caden Primo, who's on an RFA next season. And then you got this guy in Laval who's like, hey, I'm just as good, if not better than this guy. You know what
right,
I mean? Like,
right.
So that's where it is. I know we're running a little bit of time on this one. We'll probably take a commercial break or however Blaine puts those things in there and come back. But to finish this off, I think you're right. I think goaltending has to be solid, and they were solid for a time last year, and they were better after the three goalie system was over. Um, but I still think you have two medium goalies. I don't think we have a true number one goalie in either one of them. And
No.
and I think that's just something we're gonna have to live with. So what we'll do is we'll end it here. We'll go to some commercials and we'll come back and finish off the show.